President Donald Trump is expected to be in court today for a hearing in the federal classified documents case against him. In Fort Pierce, Florida, a U.S. District Judge, Aileen Cannon, is set to hear arguments on two of Trump's motions to dismiss the charges against him. The first argues Trump was allowed to store classified documents just like this. Unlocked rooms at his club under the Presidential Records Act. He claims this was okay, right by the potty.
Not okay. And we'll see if the judge, who I guess desperately wants to be appointed by something else by Donald Trump, will make the mistakes she made before and then get absolutely excoriated by the 11th Circuit. So we'll see. She can rule what she wants to rule, but no court will uphold such a preposterous argument.
The second motion claims the main statute used to form charges against the former president is unconstitutionally vague. In an interview yesterday with the right-wing network Newsmax, Trump defended his actions.
I took him very legally, and I wasn't hiding them. We had boxes on the front of and a lot of those boxes had clothing, and we're moving out, okay? Unfortunately, we're moving out of the White House. I had the right to do it, in my opinion, and in my lawyer's opinion, and everything else.
That interview was fantastic.
Just not true. Just not true what he said. Let's bring in attorney George Conway. Hey, George, so let's just say that Donald Trump accidentally packed his golf shirts and his golf shoes and some classified documents and took it down, discovered it, and then said, hey, I've got these things. You guys need to have them back. No harm, no foul. They would have come to get them. They would have taken them back. Why, in fact, that's exactly what happened in Joe Biden's case. Here, doesn't matter what he says on Newsmax or Fox, here, he had the documents. He knew he had the documents. He lied to the FBI about the documents. They tried negotiating to get the documents back. He gave some of them back. In fact, he had his lawyers actually sign affidavits swearing all the documents were back, and ended up they were lying. He kept more documents. He then tried to get his IT guy to destroy the evidence. The IT guy refused. He then asked someone else to flood the IT room with water from the swimming pool. That guy refused as well. They are now testifying against Donald Trump. So for all the idiots out there let me say not idiots, all those who have been brainwashed and are now in Donald Trump's personality cult, who are immune to facts, who are immune to the truth, who are immune to what's right and what's wrong in this situation. Clarify for them, if you will, George, the difference between those two scenarios.
I think you just did it. But what Trump is arguing is, as you say, absolutely preposterous. I mean, he's arguing, first of all, that the records belong to him under the Presidential Records Act. Literally, the Presidential Records Act starts by saying precisely the opposite, that official papers of the president belong to the United States of America, and the president can have certain rights to look at those papers after the fact, but they have to go through the National Archives. And none of that, has anything to do even with the classification. The classification issue is something that doesn't affect the fact that he took these documents and then squirreled them around. But there's no argument that this is somehow unconstitutionally vague. I mean, he obstructed justice. There's just no question about that. People go to jail for that all the time, and there's no question that these materials contain national defense information. Even if he could pull the Karnak, the Magnificent routine with an envelope to his head and say these are declassified, they'd still be national defense information under the Espionage Act, and each of those counts subjects him to a potential of 10 years in jail, and there are just dozens of counts. So
I was going to say, George, what's most telling here is, and again, Donald Trump has done so many things throughout the process just to undermine, to gut every one of his arguments. That whole argument of, well, I could declassify these if I want to, of course, undermined by his statement to his campaign manager when he was showing her top secret invasion plans of Iran, saying this is classified material. If I were still president, I could declassify it, and then I'd have no problem showing everybody in the room this. But I'm not president anymore, so I can't declassify these materials. So again, even that claim is a bogus claim. He can't be Karnak, the magician. He can't be Trump, the all-powerful ex-president. He broke the law. He knows he broke the law. He admitted he broke the law.
That's absolutely right. It's an open and shut case with all the witnesses against him talking about how, telling the prosecutors and the grand jury about how he hid the documents and lied about the documents, had his lawyers lie about the documents, tried to destroy the evidence, and so on and so forth, as you've mentioned. I mean, that's just devastating evidence. And it's not a complicated case. Yes, there is sensitive national security information in those documents, but the precise content doesn't matter. And that's the reason why this case isn't that complicated. There isn't some kind of, it's just like a drug bust case. He had the drugs. The documents. People saw him with the documents. He hid the documents, and the evidence was in his office and in his bathroom and in his ballroom at his own private resort. It's just, this case should be going to trial right now, frankly, if were it not for the bizarre actions of this district judge at the very beginning, who tried to hamstring the Justice Department's investigation and the grand jury investigation. It had to get slapped down by the U.S. Court of Appeals in Atlanta twice. I mean, if it weren't for that, and if it weren't for other delays, I mean, this case, any other judge, I think, would have had this case tried or ready to be tried as of now.